Why is the Telegraph writing hit pieces about Britain's alt-right, as in right-wingers who are prepared to challenge the centrist status quo narrative that for some reason the Telegraph is desperate to protect? I have no idea why. Why would they think that this is a bad thing unless they didn't actually want Britain to go to the right? And, I mean, Calvin Robinson, yes, he's very right-wing. Lawrence Fox is quite right-wing. And Dan Wootton's pretty right-wing, I suppose, by British standards. So, okay. But, like, what's the need for the hit piece on them? So, and I love the framing. GB News rejects trying to conquer YouTube. They're doing quite well on YouTube, as I understand it. And as we'll find out through the article, Calvin does his Common Sense Crusade on lowseas.com. So if you'd like to support Calvin and watch his show, go over there and watch it. I'll leave the link in the description. But anyway, let's carry on, shall we? So they say, after being sacked from GB News and what he branded one of the biggest MSM beat-ups in history, Dan Wootton soon found a new home for his tirades, YouTube. Well, Dan Wootton got falsely accused of a bunch of stuff. And he was exonerated by the courts, by the investigation. And so it was a weird thing that they would can him, given how he was their top guy. He was getting more views than anyone else, including Nigel Farage. Anyway, they say Wootton, who claims his daily broadcast news provides news opinion with no spin, no bias, no censorship, is not alone in moving to the platform. He's been joined by a number of other former GB News presenters, as well as a wider group of alt-right figures. Again, they keep saying alt-right, but the alt-right was a very specific and definite thing and no longer exists. None of these people are alt-right, by the way. None of these people are exclusive white identitarians, which is what the alt-right was. So calling them that is just a form of smear. But what's the purpose behind all of this? What's the purpose of calling them alt-right and going, look, these bad boys who are too radical for GB News or something, they've all gone to YouTube. Well, what do you want YouTube to do about that? Why wouldn't they go to YouTube? That's where you go when you want to be a kind of self-made media star. Where else are you gonna go? Like, what's the other alternative? I mean, I suppose you go to Rumble, but like then you just complain they were on Rumble, right? But anyway, they complain that they're attempting to wield power over Britain's right through their own media ventures. Is a tactic that has enjoyed remarkable success in Trump's America, but as UK news outlets move ever further into opinion-led programming and maintain their hold over their audiences, can this new breed of influencers repeat the trick here? Well, I mean, I think that we're generally, the online right, very influential when it comes to being right-wing and in the British right. I think that is true, but why is that wrong? I mean, does the Telegraph feel that the sand is shifting under its feet? Does the Telegraph feel that they're losing their grip over what people actually want and what people actually want to talk about? Because it does seem to be one of those things that is going more in our direction than yours, doesn't it? Anyway, they complain that Dan Wootton has 334,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's currently embroiled in some high court case. I don't know anything about it. Moving on. And Lawrence Fox and Calvin Robinson have their show, Fox and Father, on YouTube, and of course, the Common Sense Crusade. And this is because GB News got smacked because Lawrence Fox said he wasn't interested in dating a particular woman. And so they've got a YouTube channel as well, obviously. After being ejected from the airwaves, these figures have joined a small but vocal group of online influencers attempting to influence British right-wing politics. Well, is it a small group? And is it that small if our view counts measure in the millions? Carl Benjamin, oh, hello, who uses the pseudonym Sargon of Akkad. I don't use the pseudonym Sargon of Akkad. That's just the name of my YouTube channel. I don't call myself Sargon of Akkad. That's just what everyone calls me because they're used to seeing the YouTube channel called Sargon of Akkad. But I never write Sargon of Akkad on my mail or something. When I'm signing something, I do not use. But anyway, moving on. My name is Carl Benjamin, obviously. But I set up Load Season in 2020, which hosts the Common Sense Crusade show. Yeah, and we're doing great. It seems we're quite influential, and we've got millions and millions of viewers, which is wonderful. And thank you, by the way, to everyone who's watching. Trigonometry, a self-proclaimed free speech channel set by Constantine Kissner and Francis Foster, has got 1.3 million subscribers. While more recently, Reform is trying to boost its youth support base through 22-year-old activist and TikTok influencer Nicholas Lissack. He's only got a few thousand followers. Anyway, so they say, in many ways, the shift online is a facsimile of the step in changing US media, where the alt-right has gained ground, says Donald Trump. You keep saying alt-right, but that's not correct. I mean, the person who I guess was the face of the alt-right back in the day, I suppose, would be Richard Spencer, and he supports Biden at this point. So I don't know why you're using this term. But anyway, he said they say this is only accelerated with his second term in office, and Elon Musk has allowed people to use X, which is nice. Podcasters such as Joe Rogan played a crucial role in determining the outcome of the 2024 election. The thing is, do we know that? Like, they state this as if it's received wisdom, but we don't know that that's the case. We just assume that that's the case, but how would you prove it? The influence exerted by these figures, such as Tim Pool, and apparently, who else? It's just Tim Pool taking money from Russia. This was to do with the Tenet Media thing, where it's actually Lauren Chen who's taking the money from Russia and didn't tell the people that she was paying where it was coming from. But anyway, Tim Pool was at the White House, which is a seminal moment for alternative media to actually have a seat at the White House and be able to ask questions that people who are within the standard media paradigm just aren't really able to ask. And they say the would-be British influencers are now trying to mimic the trend. Sorry. We've been doing this for years. I've been doing this for 11 years now, right? Or 12 years, actually. Right. This has been a long-running career for us, and we've been very successful. We're not now trying to do something. We've been doing this for a long time. And, I mean, we've been very influential to a lot of people, frankly. But they say, you know, we're trying to mimic the trend as they capitalize on what they view as dwindling trust in conventional media outlets. Well, why would anyone trust you? Like, I get paid by subscribers to lotusseaters.com. So if you want to support me, go over to lotusseaters.com and subscribe, and then I have to make sure that I work for you and not these people. I don't know who funds the Telegraph. I don't think the Telegraph is self-funding. We are self-funding. We don't have an outside backer. And so the question is, when it's trust in conventional media outlets, there's no incentive for me to lie. There's no incentive for me to take a narrative I personally don't believe. There is an incentive for old media to lie because they have investors that want to make sure that certain things are only believed and understood by the public and other things aren't. I've tackled many uncomfortable subjects in my time, many of which I personally didn't want to deal with, but felt should have been dealt with. And this is just something that the old media doesn't do. Anyway, so Nick Newman at the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, again, you can see the institutions forming ranks here, right? The appeal is that is the same as you're seeing in the US. It's the distrust of traditional media amongst a particular group of people, and now the ability to listen to someone who you identify with, whose view you share and is representing things that previously wouldn't have been seen on mainstream TV. Well, if there's such a gap in the market, one, why didn't you think it was going to be filled? And two, why aren't you filling it? Why am I able to have such success? Why are the rest of us able to have such success? Why is it that this is available to us? And it's a failure on your part. That's the issue. There are other motivations for moving online as audiences ditch traditional TV. Piers Morgan quit Talk TV to pursue his own show on YouTube, describing his nightly slot as a straitjacket. And yet, and to be honest with you, as much as I'm not a fan of Piers Morgan, he is doing very, very well. So, you know, just saying. But for the GB News rejects, again, why be so negative? Why be so negative? And other alt-right figures, there aren't any. The move to social media reflects a desire to exert influence over the political right with viewpoints that would not be allowed on regulated broadcast TV. Well, these are political opinions that we think are correct, that we think are valid, and that we think should be operational in our political system for the good of the country. And it seems that centre-rightists don't care about the good of the country. It seems they don't care that things are going so drastically wrong. And I'm sorry that if, you know, well, we wouldn't allow that on regulated broadcast TV. Well, that goes to show the failure of regulated broadcast TV, doesn't it? It goes to show the failure for that to actually capture the spirit of the country at this point. And if we represent that more closely than you do, well, that's your problem, isn't it? So the question the Telegraph are asking is, can these fringe figures exert as much influence in Britain as the influencers do in America? And media analyst Alex de Groot points out that we have a comparatively tiny following compared to, say, Joe Rogan, who has 20 million subscribers on YouTube and pulls in 50 million listeners per episode to his podcast. I mean, that seems a little bit inflated. But yes, we are much smaller than Joe Rogan. That is true. But there are lots and lots of us. There are lots of fairly large right-wing influencers in Britain who just we're continually making ground, gaining ground, and I think that they're beginning to realize that collectively we do actually have really good numbers, because the number of subscribers is actually not really that important. The thing that's important is the number of viewers. I mean, Load Seaters gets about 7 million viewers a month. On this channel, or 7 million views a month. On this channel, I've had 4 million views, and that's in about a week or 2 weeks. And that's just me and what I'm doing. Combine the rest of it all together, and you realize that is tens of millions of views that we are collectively getting, compared to, and also I get another like 2 million on my Saga Nova CAD channel, which I don't make enough content for. So, like I said, combine that together, and you realize that actually we are pulling in millions and millions of views ourselves. And so saying, well, their guests are a lot less high profile than Rogan, and they don't have sponsorship of Spotify, maybe, but I do think that people are paying attention, and every day I think we reach more and more and newer people. So I think they are quite worried about this. He says, I think we're definitely seeing the same trend towards personality-led opinion because it's cheap and the algorithm really supports it. But it's just happening to a much smaller extent here because the new brands are much stronger. Well, I guess things will change as things change, won't they? Who knows? There are cultural differences too. In the US, many of these social media influencers are effectively cheerleaders for Trump. In Britain, by contrast, this new breed of alt-right, stop saying alt-right, idiots, espouse an incoherent array of beliefs. Well, that's not true, actually. There's quite a coherent message that underpins it all, which is we wish Britain not to be destroyed by the current Labour government and the next government that comes in afterwards. It's actually quite sensible. And again, there's a little beyond a tendency towards anti-government, anti-established viewpoints. No, there's a fairly sensible strain of thought, which is just, can we just stop immigration, right? That's really the thing that has to happen, and everything moves from that. But they do admit that, nevertheless, there's no doubt the tides are shifting. Having been the main source of news since the 1960s, TV has now been dethroned, as Britons are just as likely to access information through online news sites and apps. The younger generation brought up on social media, this trend seems likely to continue. De Groot argues that there is room in the UK media landscape for right-wing personalities to escape their current niche and break out into the mainstream. The rest is politics, and the newsagent's a successful podcast and clearly partisan on the left wing. There is a gap in the market, but the offerings need to be more muscular to attract younger guys. But, well, I mean, maybe. But I guess we'll see, won't we? Because, like I said, every day my numbers go up, and every day their numbers go down. So, like I said, go and subscribe to loadseats.com. Help us become mainstream so we can print articles that dump on the Telegraph.